Hello and welcome to a special that is specially for those who do not game. And what I mean by that is I'm going to look at some of the cartridges, tell you what systems they're for, and hopefully for the parents and the friends of gamers, when you purchase a game, you'll or goes to, so that you won't accidentally buy the wrong one for the wrong game system. So let's get started. Before, games were on discs like this, and you would read their boxes, or I should say cases, to tell you what system they're for. We had cartridges, and even some of the newer ones are variations, even if it's a chip. So what I want to get into is what these are. Let's start out with this one. This is a GBA, or Game Boy Advanced cartridge. It's smaller and it can play in a Game Boy Advanced and down. Also, the DS Lite and down will play this. As soon as you hit 3DS, it won't play this. Now we can look here at the various sizes. Now, hearing what a DS is, a DS fits these little chips here. Kind of like cartridges, you got all your stuff here. And once you move over to the 3DS, which I mentioned, cartridges look like this. As you can see, when I put it over top, there's that little extra thing there that makes it work with the 3DS, or more so not fit in a DS. Now when it comes to the other chips, which we have right here, this is the PS Vita chip. It works on the PS Vita. PS Vitas look incredibly similar to a PSP, which I don't have right now because we're talking mainly about cartridges. Now the one that they were on, this is a Nintendo game console. You can look right in there at the chip. Look at the beautiful back, and it says Nintendo, made in Japan. This one was made in 1985, 4 years before I was born. If you look, this is Zelda 2, and this is actually the first game I ever played on a Nintendo system. This one is Sega Genesis. It also has another name in other countries, but I couldn't tell you because it's not as common. This one here is for the WonderSwan. It says WonderSwan color right there. The non-color versions actually look incredibly similar. You almost can't tell the difference. Excluding it doesn't say. But if you look, same size, really no difference in that. It's just going to say a difference. But this is a Japanese only console, so you're probably not going to have to worry about that one. Now, this is another Sega cartridge. You're saying, but it looks so different. They're different sizes and all that. Well, let's turn over the back here. Well, I have cat problems instead of gremlin problems. Here we go. Sega and Genesis are... Okay, you know what? I can't read this. The camera. So, trademarks of Sega Entertainment, Sega Electronics. And we got little stickers here. Oh, Electronic Arts existed back then? Okay. Made in the USA. So, if you look at the bottoms here, slightly different. They're not going to fit into the same slot. Many of the Sega Genesises had an adapter to use this, or if you have the Retron, you can use the adapter there, which is awesome. Now, this is a Game Boy Color game. Now, you said, yes, there was a Game Boy Advance, wasn't there? Yep. And as you can see here, the top half is covering the game. That much is extra. So these do stick out a bit when you put them in a Game Boy Advance. Point being, this can be used in Game Boy Color and up. This one, Game Boy Advanced, and up to 3DS. Now, Game Boy, there's several different colors of cartridges, but predominantly they are gray. It's going to be the same size, and if you look, there's this little corner here which the Game Boy locks it into place. The chips are similar looking when you go down here. Now next we're going to go to the Super Nintendo, which is the system that came after the Nintendo. The chips looks like this, and when you hold it like this, you can see that it's wider. This here is a Super Famicom. It's basically the exact same thing as the Super Nintendo, but if you look there, you see those little indents here. This doesn't have it. So you're going to either need an adapter, or you're going to drill holes into it, or you can fiddle out the adapter plastic that slides these in. Although the Retron that's coming out, that I'm so excited for, because then I don't need to worry about a bunch of adapters for the Super Nintendo, you can just use these. Now, two last cartridges I have left here, because I'm not getting into the really old systems, because honestly I don't own them. This is Pro Wrestling. It's a Sega one. Flipping over, it says Mega Cartridge for use of Sega system only. Made in Japan. So, as you can see, it does say the system type on the back with this one. So, a lot of these, they're not saying it because, let's, for example, say the N64 cartridge has it right here on the front. And we grab the Super Nintendo here. It doesn't, it just has this right here showing you the system name right there. With these on the front, it's easier for you to tell which system, just like this one shows Genesis. So usually you're looking to read the packaging. I know a lot of you feel overwhelmed because you see so many cartridges, and if you go to an electronics store, the person that you're getting with these ones, it's going to be a used electronics store, of course, so I'm just going to assume it's a pawn shop. So you're at a pawn shop, and the person there is not necessarily going to know what goes to what and different things. So you want to read the cartridges and just try not to get overwhelmed by all the different cartridge shapes there are, sizes, colors, and types. First, remember the name of the system that you're specifically looking for. Alright, so write it down if need be, because I know a lot of parents forget or they mix the names together, like instead of GameCube and Xbox, they call it Game Box or the X Cube or different things like that. Not that that happens as much anymore because those systems are older, but case in point, this is how it is. Now, you may be trying to go by the shapes, and that's mainly what this video is for, so that you can remember shapes. The 64 cartridge goes to a 64. And honestly, the colors and the shape and everything, like, you can tell that they go together. You wouldn't, like, if you look at this one here, and you look at it, think of the system they have if you know how it visually looks. Do these look like they would fit? If you can't remember the name, does this look like it's new enough to fit in the current system? Now, of course, if you're dealing with the newer systems, they're all on CDs. Now, I'm not going to get into CDs in this video, but the cases do say what system it's for. If not, this one here says PlayStation 2 at the bottom, so you know that's a PlayStation 2 game. So a lot of the packaging does say what it goes to. So you don't need to worry, and you don't need to be overwhelmed. Now, when it comes to systems that you might want to get that's retro for a gamer, I definitely suggest that you ask them what kind of games they like. Depending on the kind of games they like, depends on the suggestible system. But we're not going to cover that today. We're just going over the cartridges. So this cartridge right here is for the Sega Game Gear. Now if we put it up to other Sega games, you can see the difference between the home console and the handheld. If we put it up to this Sega console, Sega Genesis and Sega Game Gear, you can see how it's just as tall, but it's not as wide. And comparing it to the size of an N64. And so as you can see, this one's much smaller, and that's because this one here is a handheld system, which will eat your AA batteries. As you can see, several different kinds. I am not showing any Intellivisions here. I do not have any of the different Atari cartridges here. I hope this video helps you on identifying cartridges to their proper system. Thank you for watching and have a great day.